What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. Today on the program, speaking of entertainment, I have Howard J. Levinson. Howard J. Levinson. Oh, yeah, the J stands for, I don't know. He is a musician out of Missouri, the St. Louis area, somewhere in there. You can find him going around that town, and he's been playing for you. And I guess he plays across the country as well, in the Nashville area. So, oh yeah, you know a little bit about him, but you're going to hear a little bit more about him in the next few minutes. So stick around. Kind of excited to talk to Howard J. Levinson. This week's shows, I have one public show, my usual Friday night gig at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas, the Video Dance Party Karaoke Jam. Yes, I said karaoke. It's a little concert starring each and every one of you. The party is on from 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the a.m. We always have a good time at the Rab. Full bar, kitchens open, pool tables. They got 10 diamond-style pool tables. In fact, they have a pool tournament on Friday nights. So if you want to try your hand at playing pool and possibly make some money while you're doing it, you come on out to the Rab. You do that. Come on, I'm waiting for you. It's Friday night, and you come out to the Rab, and the dance floor, and the stage is yours. You get to entertain the people. I'm just pressing buttons. Let me press a button for you, and you could sing a song at the Rab. So excited. So glad to be there. I mean, I've been there about 15 years on and off. I've been at the Rab almost every Friday night. There was some years that I was there Fridays and Saturdays, and some Thursdays as well. So yeah, I'm kind of stoked that I still get to be at the Rab at least one night a week, every week. And let's see. Oh, Saturday, I have a wedding. But unless you're invited, you cannot come. Why am I mentioning it? Because I enjoy weddings. I'm so glad I get to be at this wedding. In fact, it's a wedding of somebody that's been on this podcast. And I'm so excited that she asked me to be her DJ. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing her and her new beau and helping them to get them sent off in the right direction. Sent off in a big way. So always happy to be a part of the party at the weddings. So yeah, that's Saturday. All right, that's enough intro. Let's get into it with Howard J. Levinson. I got him on Zoom. I know I'm trying to work out this Zoom thing since Skype took a dump. Got him on Zoom. So if you're listening to the audio version, check out the video version on my YouTube page, youtube.com/user/KeysDan. Zooming Howard J. Levinson now. Howard J. Levinson. Man, if you just read on your website, howardlevinson.net, that your bio is like a one-page treatment for a Hollywood action star superhero movie. Howard, dude, you've lived a life, man. Give the people an idea of who you are.
Yeah, I've lived a pretty long and full life. Yeah, I've done a lot of stuff. I mean, I guess more so than the guy that has had one job his whole life. You know, I've had several different careers, and most of them were pretty damn interesting. I mean, I started off as a paramedic, and then became a fireman, and then became a cop, and I got assigned to all kinds of cool stuff over my police career, and homicide, narcotics, and terrorism, and all that kind of stuff. And I did a whole bunch of work with disaster response on the federal level and the state level. So I've been to damn near every national disaster since 9/11, been deployed to those. And the good thing about a lot of that stuff, there's certainly some downside. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of downside because you see stuff that you can't unsee. But, it's just a great broad life experience of which to draw material, you know. So I've written a few books and a bunch of songs, and so a lot of that stuff that I've seen and done does come out in books and music.
Yeah. The music I've seen, there's only 3 videos on YouTube, and I'm a very visual person. I'm a child of the MTV era. So I like that the fact that you've made videos to go along with your audio, but the 3 videos talk about life experience. Yeah. The one of them is about heroes. One of them is about a guy that went to jail. And one of them is you chilling with your guitar, doing your thing, man, showing off that you know how to play that thing, that you can entertain folks on your own. And I'm guessing you could do it with a band too, because the other 2 are fully produced music videos that have a full band. Do you play on your own? Do you play or do you play with a band?
Over my long and diverse musical career, I played with many bands. Um, Everything from punk to loud metal to, and then like rockabilly and stuff like that. And then of late, the last 10 years, I've just been focusing more along country, alt country type stuff. And I play with a few guys that I've been playing in a band with for a few years now. They're out of St. Louis. I live in the middle of Missouri, like smack dab between St. Louis and Kansas City on a small farm. I'm from St. Louis, and so I still play with a few guys there. And we'll do band gigs now and then, but I've been playing just a lot of solo stuff over the last couple years. Just me and a guitar showing up at a bar, a coffee house, a winery. I got a looper and stuff like that. So it sounds like it's more than me, but it really is me. And that's kind of, what I've been doing. I enjoy playing with some other guys now and then just because you bounce ideas off. But been doing a lot of solo stuff. And around here, where are you at, Dan? What part of the country are you in?
I'm in Arkansas, just below you, man.
Okay, so
close to Conway.
yeah, so you're in the Midwest kind of, and there's so many venues around here where I can go to a bar and play my own stuff, which you can hear influences from Hank and Chuck and Charlie out of my stuff, or I can play some Hank and I can play some Charlie or Chris Stapleton, that kind of stuff. So, and of course, everybody always wants to hear Freebird, so you got to do a little rendition of that. Kind of hard to do, kind of hard to do on acoustic guitar, but
Hey, but if you got the looper, man, if you're proficient in that, and hey, look, we're not young spring chickens anymore, but you got to keep up with
No,
technology, and it looks like you have. I mean, all this technology behind me, and I don't know if you saw, but I whipped out my firefighting helmet and
I see that.
my jacket from when I was a firefighter, 89 to 99 down in Key Largo, and then I was also an
Oh,
EMTB in at the hospital, almost concurrent for about another 7 years, working in the ER. But hey, I appreciate that you've done that kind of job. I guess that was the first job, and then you went over to police work, because back in '89 I took the civil service test, and they kind of gave me a choice at the end of the line. Hey, do you want to be a cop or a firefighter? And I said, well, nobody hates firefighters. I'll go that way. But what were your choices back then?
True
And
that.
when was
True
that?
that. Well, I had been a medic a while, and then I had been a fireman for a couple years, paramedic firefighter, and I seem to kind of lean towards wanting to be there first rather than being there after the shit hit the fan. So that's kind of when I got into police work. There was that whole adrenaline thing. You know how that is.
Yeah, but firefighters, we use cops as meters, copometers. If the scene is bad, if the cop fell over, and I know that sounds kind of gruesome. If he fell over, okay, set the perimeter 50 feet behind, and go from there and
Yeah.
assess the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough being first responder. I have a lot of a lot of cop friends, but the first cop experience that I had, my cousin, when I was a little kid, I used to get babysat down. Well, I was down in Miami at the time, and one of my cousins Mario wrote the handbook for the police down in Miami, and then my other cousin, I can't remember his Pepe, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, he was undercover, so every once in a while he would show up to parties, long hair, kind of looking like you with the beard, long hair, exactly. And showing up to parties, and we're like, who is this guy? And he'd go off in the bathroom, pull his hair back, maybe trim his beard a little bit. Oh, Pepe, okay. He was just coming off a job.
Yeah, good for him,
But, I mean,
Florida was a rough time back then,
Well, okay. When were you? Okay, let's go back. If you're in Missouri, were you always in Missouri? Is that your home, born and bred?
Yeah, I lived in St. Louis almost my entire life. Moved away to go to Missouri University for a while at Mizzou and Columbia, and then I stayed here in mid-Missouri for forever. Yeah.
And you're saying you live there on a farm? Is it a working farm? Do you have cows and chickens,
we have a small
what?
Farm. We have a small farm, run some cattle, a few head of cattle, that kind of stuff.
Well, okay.
Like
is that something that you do on your own? I mean, for yourself, or do you sell it out, produce it? Is it commercial? Do you use it to make a couple bucks?
Well, we will. It's one of my sons lives close by, and he's really the rancher. I'm more the laborer, But yeah, we're just building up our herd now. And so we will get to the point to where we're having a bunch of calves now, and then probably a year from now we'll be selling more and that kind of stuff. So hopefully it'll be make a few bucks, sure.
Well,
but it's fun.
Howard J. Levinson, that's another way that you're an American hero. You feed the people. The farmers are the heroes, that are very heroic because it's hard work trying to get this cattle. And if do you do crops as well, or is it all cattle?
No, we're just pasture and cattle. Yeah,
pasture and cattle. And what do you feed the cows? What kind of food? The average life, the average day of a farm. If you're the day laborer and your son is kind of taking charge of the management side of it, what is a day entail with you living on the farm?
All right. Well, I can tell you how my day started today. We got a mama cow that's had a calf 2 weeks ago, and she's not feeling well, so she's not feeding the calf. So we have to feed this calf with a bottle 3 times a day. So that's one thing. That started at 7 a.m., right? And of course, there's always checking the fences to make sure no tree fell over fence, cows get out. And it rained really hard today, so I got to make sure that nothing's flooded and they can get water and that kind of stuff. And somewhere around midday, I was able to come in and play my guitar for about an hour, So, and then right now, my wife and one of my kids are out there feeding the little calf right now, or I'd be doing that. But we're talking, so this is a break for me.
Well,
thank you.
Cool. I'm glad I can give you some kind of a break, and I appreciate you talking to my dumb face and educating me and the listener on the day in the life of Howard J. Levinson. I mean, did you grow up on this farm? Is this a family thing that's been in generations, or is this something brand new?
We've had a farm here in mid-Missouri for about 30 some odd years, and it was always just a weekend place. For beer and bonfires and deer hunting every now and then. But then when we retired about 5-6 years ago, we decided to move out of the city and move up here. So we've been living up here full time ever since.
Oh, that's the American dream right there. Get away from
it's great.
And get away from it all.
All the little venues around here. It's really fun to walk in and play a place where you know the owner and, hey man, good to see you again. Here, have a beer, that kind of a thing. It's not when you walk in a place in St. Louis. You never know who's going to be working that day, that kind of a thing. So it's really nice, these small towns.
No, it's nice to have a steady gig. I have a place 15 minutes away that I've been doing almost every Friday for the past almost 20 years. And I do appreciate the people at the RAB. They have treated me so nice that I want to be there every Friday night and play for them and do my thing for them. So And then, Saturdays, you got your different kinds of gigs. I do a lot of weddings and birthday parties and corporate events and, the Choctaw VFW from time to time. And it's nice to have different kinds of events, but it's also nice to have that steady gig where, yes, everybody does know your name. You go in, they always give me a water or a Mountain Dew because I don't drink alcohol. A drunk DJ is a bad DJ. That's what I tell them all the time. So it's much better. But all right, let's. You've only had that farm 30 years. What were you doing previous to that? How was a little baby Howard growing up in school? What were you getting into? Did you always like music? Did you pick up the guitar early, or were you into sports?
Yeah.
What kind of thing?
Yeah, I was pretty much influenced by the English invasion, when everybody came across. And
Which one though? The old wave or the new wave?
Yeah, the Beatles and the Stones and the Animals and the Kinks, those are my big influences. And of course, Elvis, and Chuck Berry and all those guys. And yeah, I picked up a guitar probably when I was probably about 14, a box acoustic guitar, and started playing stuff, and probably wrote my first song when I was probably 15, 16, somewhere around there. And then I got into electric guitars and stacks, amplifier stacks and loud music and playing big, loud stuff. And now, as I've gotten older, I downsize in equipment so I don't have to carry heavy stuff around and play softer. And, I've been playing, my songwriting has been everything from rock to country to bro country to rockabilly, and I've even branched off into some like spiritually themed songs. Like the one YouTube video was Still Small Voice. That's a verse right out of the Old Testament. So it's kind of about, somebody who's looking at their life and, what's important to them. So I've got a couple more of those type theme songs. In fact, I'm going to go in the studio sometime this summer. I've got a couple more songs I've been writing that are about ready to go. I'm gonna have to go in the studio and record these, and one of them is one of those kind of redemptive spiritual type songs.
See, these are uplifting. Right? A certain kind of person is going to connect with these songs, and you're going to make them feel a certain kind of way. You might lift them out of a mood that is less than pleasurable, and that is a power that you have as a singer-songwriter. All right, my man. Well, shoot, it's nice going through the life. You're a child of the 60s. And when you said you went from acoustic to electric, I just thought of Dylan. How did your fans take it when you picked up the electric guitar? Howard, how did they take it, man?
Oh, yeah, really, it's funny. At 16, I don't think I had very many fans, but I know when I picked up the electric and played in a really loud band, and I was Columbia, Missouri, going to college, and I was in a rock band, and we played all kinds of festivals, and we were so loud we got hired to play a Christmas dance at the Missouri School for the Deaf because we shook the walls. We were that loud, But those are fun times. But I'm older and wiser now,
Well, you say loud. The loudest concert I ever went to was The Who. And this is in the 80s. And I saw The Who in the Hollywood Sportatorium, Hollywood, Florida. And you didn't even have to go into the building to hear. You could hear it from outside, from miles away. And this building is supposed to be soundproof. I've seen many a concert at the Hollywood Sportatorium. I don't even know if it's still there, but I know all throughout the 80s. See, you're a child of the first wave. I'm a child of the new wave. I grew up I was born in 69, but I grew up in the 80s when MTV came around, when that kind of technology, when video killed the radio star. And really it didn't, because no matter how quote unquote ugly the rock stars were, getting on MTV, almost the uglier you were, the more popular you were, because you had a certain kind of look, you had an image, and just it added the audio. I added video to that audio experience, and I appreciate it, and I still play videos. In fact, I'll play your 3 videos this weekend at the club at the Rab, and they'll that's this way people go, who is that up there? And I go, oh, that's Howard J Levinson. Look him up. Maybe you could sample his wares, and I like to feature the people that I've talked to on this podcast, in addition to other people that send me music all the time for RadioWhat.com, and I do appreciate the independent artist because you're working as hard as any other artist. You've gotten to this level on your own, and now I guess you've got big records behind you, and you're going to be going, hopefully getting pushed to the next level. Those guys seem pretty nice about pushing people ahead and further ahead. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to know what were you studying at the university in Missouri there?
I think I was basically studying partying.
Okay. That was me. I was the
partying for a couple of years and then dropping out to play in a rock band for about another 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I started out in psychology and communications.
I didn't come out of that school with a degree of any sort,
I started out in psychology and communications when I first went to college, and I think I barely got the radio vocation, but mostly I DJ'd a lot during. I partied a lot. I think we have similar college experiences. And okay, you became a firefighter and a cop, and those things. It looks like you have to go to some kind of school, but it's like a vocation. It's a specific type of school where you get that degree. What gave you the inkling that you said, there's a burning building over there. I want to go ahead and go in it. What gave you that idea? When you got out of, when you finally let go of the college experience, where did you go from there?
Well, when I was in Columbia, Missouri, Mizzou, and they had an EMT program there. And so I went to the EMT program, became a paramedic, and worked, in mid-Missouri for a couple years. And then I moved back to St. Louis, and that's when I became a fireman outside of St. Louis. And they were looking for paramedics for the fire department. And this was back in the day, maybe this is before your time, but we were still using fishing tackle boxes for our cardiac kits and everything, right? So, and we were hopping in. My first job as a paramedic firefighter at this fire district, they still had a hearse ambulance, and then it went to LSV about a year later. But, those are the days. But, it was really a lot of fun, as you know. I mean, it is a lot of fun if you can be on the scene, everybody's running out, you're running in, and the chances are maybe you'll find somebody, rescue somebody. And if you're a medic, you can do all kinds of advanced, cool stuff. And yeah, it's pretty rewarding.
Hey, man, first in, first out. When I was a kid in my early 20s, that's when I started the firefighting thing. And I remember, the tackle box. You wanted to help people when you're not on duty, so you put a tackle box full of like gauze and bandages and little trinkets and stuff. You put it in your trunk. Maybe maybe like an airway kit, something like that. You put in your trunk. Maybe I'll see somebody on the side of the road that needs help. I never did. I had this tackle box full of junk in the back of my trunk for the longest time. I mean, the only time you help people is when you're driving that big red truck or the orange ambulance or whatever. We had box trucks. When I first started with the ambulance corps, and I didn't know much, but I remember 4th of July, 1989 was my first call, and it was a gunshot on the 3rd floor of this walk-up, and I didn't know anything. The paramedics that I was working with put the thumper on, and I went down backwards down the stairs, carrying this fella down as we took him to the truck and eventually into the hospital. I mean, that was my first call, and I said, "What have I gotten myself into? What am I doing with my life? Do I want to do this?" And then eventually, first fire. First fire was Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod down in Key Largo, and it was a trailer fire, so the trailer fell on my head. I think this is the helmet that they gave me because it cracked. So I ended up, getting to keep a helmet. Usually they don't let you keep the helmet. You got to use those and pass them on to the next guy when you leave. But there's been a lot of things. That was first fire and first emergency call, tough stuff, man. And I stuck with it.
Yeah,
I did it for 10
absolutely.
years. How long did you end up firefighting? Any interesting
Well,
stories?
well, I was a medic for probably 15 and a cop for 22.
Okay. Now, when you were a cop, did you keep your paramedic certification
I
up as
kept
well?
it for a while. Yeah, I
Okay.
kept it for a while, but then when I went in some of these specialized assignment task forces, I couldn't keep up the clinical hours, so I had to let it go.
Well, hey, you do what you got to do, man.
Yeah.
You branched out into different adventures, and
Yeah. Yeah.
crime fighting is it takes a certain kind of person. You're living on, especially undercover. I guess you did a little undercover work. You're living on both
Yeah, I
sides of
did.
the line, making sure that your heart stays in the right place, and you don't get sucked into the other side of the line. There's plenty of movies and television shows about that where they go a little too deep, a little too far.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, certainly that can happen.
Well, does it? Has it? Did you witness any of that?
Not anybody in my personal sphere, anyway, went off the deep end. I mean, some guys became alcoholics, but I mean, nobody became a criminal,
But
you
it
know.
almost goes hand in hand. The substance abuse, it almost goes hand in hand with that kind of a job that's so stressful. You have to have some kind of a release. And if you
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
find a hobby like playing guitar, you might get sucked into a different kind of abuse. So thankfully, you had an acoustic guitar that you were able to abuse those strings to no end. And write some songs. So that's how your addiction or your outlet from the stress. Were
yeah. It's certainly
you?
been, yeah, it certainly has been that, It's certainly, writing songs and writing stories have certainly been an outlet for sure.
Well, see, yeah, because the DJing thing has been a through line throughout my career. No matter what I was doing in my day shift or in my other career, there's always been that music, that need to play music. And I don't play my own music. I got a harmonica there and a ukulele sitting behind there, and I've had guitars over the years. I think I could play two chords, two finger Ted. Ted Nugent famously, right? And called himself Two Finger Ted. I think he played way more than two finger because the man was talented. But anyway, I've played some instruments, but nothing that I could be proficient enough to take on stage. And you say at 16 you didn't have a lot of fans. I'm sure the kids in school, when you went to talent shows or you sat in the quad playing your guitar, you didn't have anybody gathering around and saying, "Ooh, that Howie, he's
I
so
mean,
great."
I mean, as kids, we played our fair share of like, the things at school or little parties and things like that at somebody's house. But yeah, of course, I probably did that shit. I just don't have specific recall anymore.
Yeah,
So
but
many years.
that's where the bug hits you, and I'm guessing in at the firehouse while you're on your downtime, eating your spaghetti, watching your soap operas, you might have been whipping out that guitar for the boys and maybe girls. I don't know, but were you playing guitar at the firehouse as well?
Every now and then, I'd play a little something. And there was another guy that played too, so we jam every now and then.
Nice, man. It breaks up the monotony because
Yeah.
a lot of firefighting is waiting around. But on the other side of the coin, well, I guess. Tell me about the police work, because some people say a lot of police work is waiting around, sitting at a desk, making phone calls, typing up reports, that kind of thing. Tell me about the police work. Was it as exciting as firefighting, or in a different kind of way?
It's hours of boredom and moments of mayhem, pretty much. I mean, depending on what you're doing, but like, detective work, it's hours of boredom and moments of mayhem. And undercover was more like, 50-50. Homicide, you're basically working when somebody gets killed, murdered, you're working, you know, 24, 36, 48 hours straight. So there's not a lot of downtime there. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really bring a guitar around the station too often.
Gotcha.
But, a lot of the guys would come to my gigs, so that was good.
Oh, you kept the thing in your trunk, so it was always at the at the ready. But tell me about the undercover work. Did you have any interesting assignments? My cousin, he was he was in Miami, so it was the drugs, and he would go undercover and he'd bust drug dealers. I mean, and now I guess they've softened up a little bit on the drugs and figured out that some can get regulated and some can't, and I don't know, is marijuana still a Schedule 1 or is it 2 or is it completely unregulated? How are the laws in Missouri? Is it still tough on
I think
drugs?
federally, weed is still a Schedule 1. They haven't changed that yet. But, there's weed is legal. There's a weed store every corner, in every town. So yeah, that's no different here than it is anywhere in the States. Yeah. So
No, it feels different than when I grew up with Nancy Reagan saying no, say no to drugs and DARE program.
yeah.
So a lot has changed since we were kids. Much has changed since you were a kid. And you said that you've come along with the technology as technology progressed. You had an acoustic guitar, went to electric. Did you have that whole line of foot pedals that I see when I go to concerts and I see these guys that have foot pedals with all kinds of effects on their guitars, or are you more of a distortion? No distortion. That's it. Only two effects.
Yeah, I've had probably no more than maybe a pedal board with maybe six pedals at the most.
Yeah, you got to have that wah wah.
Yeah, I've had a wah wah and a distortion and overdrive pedal and of course a looper and a chorus pedal. But playing 70% acoustic, I really don't need a whole lot of stuff. So my current pedal board is about that big and that high. It's not very many things on it. So it's a lot less complicated nowadays.
Yeah, but that looper, if you're very proficient in looper, I've seen some of these guys that will loop out a whole orchestra, it seems, full of music, and it's just them on stage with with loop after loop after loop, and you're like, wow, they just produced an entire song that is radio ready right in front of you. It's a magic trick. It's like magic, man. How proficient are you in this
there are
thing?
guys that do that. I'm not quite interested in being that provocative with loopers. I'll loop so I can do some solos and maybe throw some percussion in or something like that. But as far as throwing nine different layers on it, nah,
Well, I
it's too
mean, yeah,
complicated.
and then there's those records that are ready with the -1. If you want to put in a guitar over it, you can do -1 guitar or -1 drum or -1 vocals, and that's karaoke. But you could do -1 uh, uh, tracks and then play along with those. Do you use those as well, or is it strictly you
No,
and the
no, I
guitar?
don't. I don't have any backing tracks. It's just me and a looper, or me. A lot of my songs I don't even use looper. I just play, and people. It's been my experience over the last decades of playing music. You could play as good as Eric Clapton or not, and people are going to listen to you. And you either have a good song, good melody, good lyrics, and good stage presence, or not. And whether you're screaming like Clapton or Stevie Ray, the only people that appreciate that are other guitar players. You know,
Well, I mean,
really.
I don't know if they were self-taught or not, but did you go to a class for music? Did you learn chord progression? Did you learn theory? Did you take the time to learn all that? Or was this all self-taught, listening to
Pretty much.
music?
I had a guitar teacher when I was 16, taught me a few chords, how to play Louie Louie and Hey Joe and House of the Rising Sun. And, then everything after that has been just, on my own and figuring out, listen to other guys play and that kind of stuff. And when I go into the studio, I've been recording in Nashville in another studio or two around here in Missouri, and we don't make it too complicated. Bass, drums, maybe some keys, a guitar or two, and maybe if it's required, find a steel guitar player if it's a really, strong country song. But I try not to keep things, too complicated because, you want to make a good product, but you don't want to overproduce anything.
Well, now that you're retired, are you looking to stick around in the Missouri area in your small town and the surrounding areas, or do you want to take a trip around the world with Howard J. Levinson's music?
Well, I think Big Records World, the record company that I'm signed with now, they have done tours, and I would not be opposed to like getting on a bus and maybe doing a loop tour in the United States, especially like Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, that kind of a loop like that. Maybe that would be fun. Maybe we'll put something like that together with Big Records. It'd be fun.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I took a trip across the United States, DJing for different singles parties. I went, out to California from Miami, and then back up into Colorado, and all the way. I did 10 all the way out, up the one, and then 40 all the way back, and doing parties all the way. So yeah, those little tours, man. I don't know if I'd want to do it now, but hey, if somebody wanted me to do it, I'd probably consider it. That sounds great, man.
Yeah, I had a booking agent and I was ready to go on tour back in, must have been 19. Had me booked for exactly what I just said. It was like starting out in St. Louis and then going west and then going south and then going east and then going north and then coming back. Just a big loop, a whole bunch of little towns, playing bars and coffee houses. And then COVID hit. And so it was like, that was the end of that, so that never came back.
That was a shared experience that a lot of people have written songs about. And look, you've not only written songs. I want to talk about your books. You said you wrote 2 books, and the Amazon that I saw. Okay, I see the Mercury Vapor Lamp Experience, and then that's Aliens, man, Aliens, bro. And then Tapping Death. Is that all you?
Yeah, and there's one more called Unseen Forces. It's on Amazon. But so yeah, just like my music, I've written novels, 3 different genres. So the first one, that Mercury Vapor Lamp Experience, that's a kind of a sci-fi one where a group of kids with Asperger's save the world from an Armageddon. So it's kind of, it's a fun little book to write about kids with special talents, that have Asperger's anyway. And then Tapping, it's a forensic murder mystery that was based on a child murder case I worked. I fictionalized this murder case I worked because it was a very interesting and gruesome case, and I thought it would be a fun thing to kind of make the case turn out better than it actually did. So I wrote a book about it. So that's that one. And then the last one I just wrote is basically a rock and roll musicians to get tied up into a big government conspiracy and mind control through music and stuff like that. So that's a kind of like a musical one. So I've got 3 different genre novels too.
I have not written a book or had the inspiration to write a book. But I'm going to put it out in the universe. I don't know how much you believe in this, but Hollywood, come call Howard J. Levinson, and make sure you option all this fine IP, man. These stories are made for Hollywood. People are thirsty for talent, for something new, and to have someone with special needs, an atypical brain that's going above and beyond what people might think that they can do, they can achieve. That's something. Okay. And then taking real life mysteries, true crime is so, and it's not just that it's true crime now. True crime throughout the years, throughout the centuries has been fascinating. What a person, can be pushed to, or what a twist, can be twisted into. And you writing about that. This is made for Hollywood movies, man. Has Hollywood ever called, or any of these independent artists? Somebody with an iPhone? Hey, I want to film this.
No, I haven't had anybody from Hollywood call. But I really I haven't made any moves to move beyond just writing it. I'll write and then whatever happens.
Hey, there's more to it, man. These days, you got to be making moves. Okay, and I know that's the life of an entertainer anyway. Hustling, the starving artist is a thing, man. So you have to keep making moves. But I'm glad that you have specific places that keep calling you back. I want you to give shout outs to those places, and I want you to tell people where they can see Howard J. Levinson live. And I know I'm going to put the links in the show notes to where they can buy and stream the music as well.
Well, there's all kinds of little places around here. I play pretty regularly in a small town called Herman, Missouri here. It's a winery town on the river. I play at a bar called 1837 Cellar Bar. I play pretty regularly there. There's a bar in Columbia, Missouri, my old alma mater that I never graduated from. There's a bar there called the Dive Bar. I play there fairly often. There's a brewery outside of St. Louis in a little town called Wentzville, Friendship Brewing Company, where they make great beer. I play there pretty regularly. A small town not far from here called Mexico, Missouri. TJ's Roadhouse. It's a roadhouse, man. It's right out of Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze, a great little bar like that. So all these little towns around here all have places like that. They're great.
Tell me about the recording experience. Are you primarily wanting to be a musician that plays in front of people, or do you want to be studio, or is it 50-50? What do you like better?
No, I'm definitely a performing musician. I don't have the chops to be a studio musician, that's for sure. So yeah, I like going out and playing. After I'll spend some time writing a song, and then I have not been blessed with that experience of writing a song in 20 minutes. When I write a song, it typically takes me a while till I figure out exactly where I'm going to it, how it's going to go, the melody, the lyrics, whether it's going to bridge or not, and do I want it in C or G or D, or how do I want to, how do I want to structure this thing? So it could take me, I'm working on a song right now that I'm pretty sure I'm done with it now. It's a new one. It's one of those spiritually based, redemptive type songs, and it's this is the 16th version of the song that since I started it, and that was probably, 4 or 5 months ago I started it, and so I'll work on it a little while, and then I'll let it simmer for a while, then I'll pick it back up and say, well, I don't like that as much as this, and I'll try something, and then I'll, when I finally get to where I think, man, this is where I want to be, that's when I'll go into the studio and I'll record it, and I'll get, I have, if I go to Nashville, there's a couple of different producers I've worked with, and they've got really good guys in the studio, and it's, working in Nashville is like working in a magic factory, because you go there with a song, and these guys are able to really do some fantastic stuff on your songs, and put my vocals on it, that kind of thing. And if I do, and it's similar here in Missouri. There's a studio I work with here, Better Man Recordings, that's in a small town not far from me. And the guy's a musician, and he's got a stable of really quality musicians, and he was in Nashville for a while, so he's got that background. So it's just a toss-up whether I'm going to record in Nashville or here. I haven't decided yet with the next batch of 3 or 4 songs that I've got to do.
Yeah, I like that you said that you finished the song. I've talked to a lot of creators, between movie makers, authors, and singer-songwriters. Your songs, your creations are never done. They're abandoned. It's like you just give up on them at that point. Okay, that's good enough. I'm exhausted. In fact, I talked to a young lady a couple days ago, and she said that her first album, she was exhausted putting all these songs together. And she was similar to you, where it took her years to write a song. And when you were talking about your songwriting, I thought of Leonard Cohen. It's rumored that he had over 50 verses to Hallelujah at some point or another, and had to cut that thing down. The all the verses that he could come up with between the Hallelujah.
Yeah. I heard it. I read something about that song too in one of my songwriter magazines. It was 7 years in the making.
7 years. And in all those years, you can imagine that somebody can write 50 verses to go between those hallelujahs. That's inspiring. And they had to be cut down to a handful, I guess, that finally became the song that we know today. And have you had songs that you just keep writing and writing and writing, and then you finally go, I got to cut this down? I mean, okay, and I'm thinking of Queen, famously with Bohemian Rhapsody, a 6-minute song, and they told Freddie Mercury, no, you got to cut this down to 3. And he said, no, man, no, and left it at 6. But have you had songs that have just gotten away from you and you just put them out? They just keep writing and writing themselves?
Yeah, I've had some stuff that I really thought were going to go somewhere, and after messing with them for a long period of time, it's like, you know what, the hook line isn't working, or the theme of the song isn't working, and so those kind of things you just got to say, all right, I'm gonna move on, because as a writer, that it may be a great hook line, but you just can't match it to the theme of the song. So there's stumbling blocks that at some point you just want to say, you know what, it's just not to be, But then on the flip side, when you hit upon something that really works, it's like, wow, this is really coming along. I know this is going to take some work, but this is one I need to devote time and energy to.
Well, do you ever revisit those songs that you wrote when you were 15, 16 years old and kind of rework them and retool them and build them into something brand new?
It's funny you should say that. I actually was thinking about one, oh man, it's a couple of weeks ago, and I picked up my guitar the other day and I said, I remember how this song goes, and I started playing and I remembered most of the lyrics, and I said, well, some of those lyrics won't work. So the melody is pretty good and the theme of the song is pretty good, but I'm going to have to rewrite the lyrics,
I mean, what are you thinking about when you're 15, 16 years old? Yeah, sports and girls and whatever, and waking up and watching Saturday morning cartoons. I don't know. What was that?
Yeah, this is a song about a girlfriend, that kind of a thing,
Those are timeless.
It was a nice little song back then, but I really like the chord structure is great. I played it again. I said, man, I was writing pretty good structures back then when I was just a kid. So, I'll probably mess around with that for a while. See what I can come up with.
Hey, when you were a kid, you had the 60s around you. You had all the swinging 60s, the first wave, the British invasion was coming in. You said you even liked some Elvis and Chuck Berry. I had the pleasure of seeing Chuck Berry in the Florida Keys, July 30th, 2008. No, he couldn't get down and get the duck walk, but it was so good to see that man on stage, that legend on stage with his big old fat boy guitar. I don't know if it was a Gretsch or what, but he was playing just a big old beautiful guitar, and I was like, wow, this is great. But
he used to play at a place called the Duck Room in University City every one Wednesday night a month in St. Louis. So, you could catch him there. I've caught him there before, I actually played that room where he played at back in the day, 20 some odd years ago. But yeah, he was still around. And it was so funny that we were down in University City, the bar that it's at is called Blueberry Hill. It's just iconic bar in St. Louis down where he would play. And we were down there. When did he die? 10 years ago now? Had to be, because 2008 it was actually, probably. We were down there the day he died.
Oh, wow.
We were down there, in Blueberry Hill at the bar, in the basement where he used to play on the day he died. Well, this is serendipitous kind of, But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the legends, and I guess the older we get, more people are going to be passing, and you're going to go, oh, I remember that guy, and he did some great work. And that's all you want to be, is remembered. You want to make your mark on this world. Howard J. Levinson, you're making this mark on this world. Between your firefighting, your paramedic, your cop work, the music is going to leave a lasting impression. Just putting it out there online on YouTube, it's going to live forever, or at least until this internet goes dead and civilization as we know it.
Well, thank you for the kind words, Dan. That's very nice.
It's
very
out
nice.
there. My goodness, you've put it out there, and it's a certain kind of vulnerability to put your work out there and to say, here it is, and then to open it up for criticism. You could keep it to yourself. You could play in your room and be, somewhat satisfied, but you've taken the time to go to Better Good Studios? What is the name of the place?
The one here is Better Man Records.
Better Man Records. I'm glad that you gave them a shout out. Give credit where credit is due. They've helped you along. You said they had a stable of musicians. I can imagine like a little horse stable of guitarists and drummers just sitting outside, just waiting to play, eating their carrots or whatever. I love that you go to a professional studio and they do have people that can help you flesh out these songs. That I appreciate that so much. The shoulders of giants, people that play. You say you're not proficient enough to be a studio musician, but you're smart enough to hire people that might be a little more proficient in certain areas. You bring in the songs, you're bringing the ideas, you're bringing the themes, the chord progressions. You could probably hum the tune to them. And they'll go, oh, you want something like this? And they'll be playing it for you, and you go, yeah, that's exactly what I didn't know that I wanted.
That's kind of how the magic is in any in studios in Nashville, or there's one here in Missouri. That's kind of how it is. It's just amazing, and it's so funny that these guys. I remember one of the first times I went to Nashville, and I was kind of new to recording, and I met these guys, and I played them a song for me, and then they went back and they played a few things, and I said, yeah, I thought about that, and they said, yeah, we know, and then it was like they would do that, and then in about 2 hours, we'd be done, and they would be going to another studio to do the same thing at somebody else's studio. And these guys were all guys they were all guys probably my age that had been on the road for 25 years to 30 years with all the big name stars over the years, everybody from Kenny Rogers, to Chuck Berry or to Montgomery Gentry or Brad Paisley. All these guys have played with all these big names, and now they just don't want to travel anymore. They just want to stay at home. So they drive down to Music Row, they play these studios, and I'll go to the next studio and get paid, play a couple hours there. It's just amazing.
Yeah, they call them hired guns, man. Back in the 50s and 60s, it used to be a handful of musicians that did all of the records. The Green Onions and what is it? Some of the other studios had their own house bands, and all they needed was the singer to come in.
Muscle Shoals.
Yes.
Yeah. Then the Wrecking Crew.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Wrecking Crew out in California, Muscle Shoals, Alabama. You had the Green Onions. Was it Green Onions? Was it? I don't remember. But anyway, man, it's amazing. You could do so much in this music business. Yes, you could be that guy that tours around the world with a few of his bandmates and goes from country to country, wowing them. Or you could play parties every weekend and make a decent living. There's so much you can do in this music business, in the business that we call show. You've got so many avenues, so many outlets, the books, the music. You're putting it out there to the world. Do you expect that do you have more books in you? Do you have more music in you? Do you have, you say that you keep on working and working. Do you see an end to this, or is this was going to take you all the way to the end? You're just going to keep writing music till you're done.
I haven't given much thought to writing another novel yet. Just haven't had the inspiration or the thought about what I would want to write about. But I'm busy songwriting. Yeah, I've got 3 or 4 songs in the pipeline now that I'm going to record this summer. So, and then there'll be more after that. And I'll keep writing and recording and playing as long as I can, as long as it's fun. If it gets to the point to where oh man, I really don't feel like going out and playing this weekend. If it gets to that point, then I'm just going to stop, you know. But right now, it's fun.
Well, I said it before. I'll say it again. That Alien book, that is ripe and ready to be optioned out. Hollywood. Hello, Hollywood.
Hello, Hollywood.
Come and
Yeah.
get Mr. Levinson. And
Yeah, you know, because I wrote that because so much was in the news about Asperger's, you know,
yes.
and I don't have a lot of the traits of someone with Asperger's, but I have some, and so I was thinking, and I started researching Asperger's, kind of like trying to be self-diagnostic, and the more I researched, I said, man, these are some really interesting people, and so that's the whole thing started, my brain turning, and I ended up writing the book about it, you know, with
Well,
them as my protagonists.
we always write what we know. And okay,
Exactly.
I'm an unapologetic fan of South Park, and Cartman is always trying to get into something or another. And there was at one point he heard Asperger's. I can have Asperger's. And he decided that for that episode he wanted to have Asperger's. Whether he liked the sound of the name, and I think that they haven't they changed the name? It's like on the spectrum now.
Yeah.
There's not even Asperger's
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
But either
Yeah.
way, man, I'd set that thing back in the '90s or whenever you wrote it, and make a movie out of it. Okay, so option it out, man.
All right.
It's ready, and then have your songs. There's so many ways to make money on your music as well. Yeah, you know, people have been hit and miss with their Spotify and their Apple iTunes and that kind of thing. But some people put it on Sync and other resources to go put them in the movies. You know, your songs could be featured in movies. Though you're writing inspirational music, which is just perfect for, you know, movies about people that are inspirational. I mean, you know, imagine if your song was in a movie like Brian's song or any of these movies that are uplifting, you know, people that overcome hardships. In fact, the Alien movies with the kids with the Asperger's, and then featuring Howard J. Levinson songs as well. So written by Howard J. Levinson, music by Howard J. Levinson. I could see it,
Well,
man.
you know, Big Records is doing some of that stuff. You know, that's part of one of the, you know, services that Big Records is doing. They're going to be doing some sync stuff. So hopefully, you know, some of the songs that I've sent them are more in line with what they would consider sync songs. So who knows? We'll see.
Well, they've been sending a lot of their
Possible.
artists my way, and I've had the pleasure of chatting with a lot of the artists. In fact, I talked to Mark, and I also talked to Tara on this thing as well, and quite a few of the others that have moved from the artist to the administrative side of Big Records, which is great. You know, they're all artists that want to help other artists. Once you get to a certain level, I mean, even at the level you're at, you could be helping the next generation. In fact, you could be inspiring my listener right now to pick up a guitar or play an instrument, find a pen and put it to paper. I don't even know how kids write books anymore. I guess it's all computers now, or they talk it into their phone and then transcribe it somehow with AI. Yeah. I'm not afraid of technology. I got technology sitting right here behind me. If you're watching the video version of this, so you gotta keep up with the times. I see
lots of stuff back there.
Yeah, you got to keep up with the times, man, and making it sound right, making it look right. But Howard J. Levinson, you've given some shout outs to people that have helped you along the way. Let's land this plane. Give some more shout outs to people that have inspired you and helped you. And then we'll take this thing home.
Well, there's been, as far as artists and things like that I really enjoy, that have inspired me. It's funny, I was a big Lou Reed fan back in the day. Because he was writing some really interesting poetic songs, even though nobody knows a lot of his songs anymore. They know a couple ones that were on the radio, but he's got a pretty broad catalog of some really interesting stuff. I was big, into Lou Reed and, of course, Tom Petty, and I was a big Eagles and Poco, Flying Burrito Brothers, those guys, I was kind of into that Laurel Canyon type thing back in the day, and those are big inspirational stuff to me. And and right now it's a matter of, this big records world with Mark's group and seeing where that takes me.
Yeah. So West Coast is more your
The
thing
next
then?
step. Well, I mean that's where a lot of the influences that have made music great the last few decades came out of the West Coast.
Yeah. A lot of people
With
think California is the place you ought to
all those
be
things.
if you want to do some of this music. You've already been to
Yeah.
Nashville. Did you ever play on, I guess, Broadway? Is that the big road there? Did you ever play in any of those clubs down there, or was that primarily studio work?
I played at Tootsie's once.
How about
Played at
that?
Tootsie's once.
I need to get out there because I know some cats that have tried their hand, like some local musicians here that have chucked it all, given up their world here and made their way to Nashville to see if they can make it big. And yeah, a couple of them come back, but hey, one or two of them are still out there trying to do their thing, going from club to club on Broadway. And I haven't been to Branson, Missouri, and I haven't been to St. Louis. I did take a trip to Detroit, and why I have no idea. But anyway, I did drive through Missouri on the way back from Detroit, so I know that there's places there. I probably went by your house at some point, coming down through Missouri.
Well,
I'm sorry I didn't stop and say hi.
if you make it into Missouri and you're heading towards St. Louis, let me know.
All right, my man. All right, let's take this thing home. I always finish these. I don't want this to be the last time that we talk. If you have other things that are coming up, if you have some shows that need to be promoted or new songs, you have an open invitation here on the What Makes You Famous podcast. But I always finish these things off with last words for the people. This could be words to live by, something you heard a long time ago, maybe a mantra you wake up with every morning, or whatever pops into your head at this moment in time. Howard J. Levinson, give the last words for the people.
Well, I guess for your viewers, nothing. You got so many hours in a day, so make the best use of them as you can with the talents that you have. If you're a musician, then play music. If you're a writer, then write. If you're a logger, go cut down some trees. I mean, do what you do, but just do something. If you're a DJ, go on DJ. If you have time on your hands, go to howardlevinson.net.
Well, there you have it, party people. Howard J. Levinson. Just reading his bio on the howardlevinson.net. Just read the bio right there on the front. That is a one-page elevator pitch. I don't know, a one page that you would give to a producer to get a Hollywood movie made out of it. Between firefighting and paramedic and police and crime and detective and singer songwriter, that all these things, all these elements combine, and it's hard to imagine one person doing all these elements. But yeah, Howard J. Levinson, kind of an American hero, and he's lived a life, man. Let's put it that way. Let's put it this way: if you have a certain type of demeanor and you don't want to be stuck in one place for too long a time, and you have a thirst for different adventures, different inputs, then you go and you do things, man. You go be a firefighter, you go be a paramedic, you go be a policeman, and you go be a crime fighter. Yeah, and you go be a singer-songwriter, and you go be an author. Yeah, and put your hand in different things and try things out. So I'm stoked to know Howard J. Levinson. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I appreciate you. And now you got a fan. I'll be following you around and sharing your work as well. That's one thing you could do that's easy, is share them on your social media. Whenever you see a post from Howard J. Levinson, you just put a share on it, put a like on it, especially a share, and maybe throw a comment in there. Hey, you're doing great work. It helps to uplift that artist and keeps them going. That's what you do. He's uplifting us with his music. because he's taking his life experiences and turning them into song, and it's making us feel a certain kind of way. So Howard J. Levinson, good on you. Thank you so much for being on the What Makes You Famous podcast. That concludes this edition of What Makes You Famous. Now, if you, yes, you, my loyal listener, if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call, 501-470-6386, or email keysdan@aol.com. That's it for me. It's keysdan, radiowhat.com, djlittlerock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.